What's up, everybody? We are back. This is the 60 days of your retiring from the military. So I am exactly 60 days out. Just hit my terminal leave, had my 20 days of house hunting leave. So the last time we talked about submitting your BDD, getting your medical stuff done, all that stuff. So once that is done and you do your last medical evaluation, you submit that to the VA, and then they'll schedule your CMP exams. Okay. When you do those, the best thing to do is just be honest, but also talk about your worst today. You know, the worst thing you can do is go in there and just be like, oh yeah, I'm okay. Like don't say that, because then you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. But just be honest, and whatever's in your evidence, you'll see through. It is what it is. That's all you can do for it. Don't go to any of those crazy lawyers that they take 20% forever from your money, because that's stupid. Even if you get 100%, that means you're only getting 80%, because they're taking that cut every single month. So just keep that in mind. Use your DAVs, use your VSOs, all that stuff like that. And that they'll help you out and be able to give you advice and stuff. So besides that, the next thing you want to focus on is making sure you are very, very nice and cool to admin. Like I said before, make sure all your awards and all that stuff are updated. That way when you submit for your DD-214 and you sign it, mind you, this is just Navy. I don't know how it works in other branches. But for the Navy, they'll send you a draft, and you'll go through it. You'll make sure it's okay. You'll say, yep, it's okay. And you'll send it back. And normally you're supposed to have that before house hunting leave, but I got it like 14 days before terminal leave, okay? So I got my DD-214 already. Boom. So immediately uploaded that to the VA, and I don't have to worry about that anymore. So that's a huge thing to think about, is getting your DD-214 as soon as you can. If you do that, then your journey will be much easier. You're still going to be freaking out. There's still a lot of stuff on the list, but yeah. The next thing to do is, as soon as you get your orders, you want to get your house hunting going, right? So do your house hunting leave, take your 20 days, find a place to live, and then as soon as you and before you even find a place, you should already have your, as soon as your orders pop, you should get your house hunting move going for your final destination. Mind you, if you're retiring, you have a whole year to do that, but I didn't want to stay in San Diego because it's super expensive there, so I was trying to get out of there as soon as I could. So after you move, you get your house hunting and all that stuff like that. The biggest piece of advice I would say is use your house hunting and find a place quick. It makes it so much easier. That I was able to find a place in a weekend. Got a realtor, showed me 4 different places, picked a spot, and then that night I was able to get a hold of Household Goods and say, hey, don't put my stuff in storage. This is now my new address to drop off. Why? Because there is an RDD date, okay? That is your most far out delivery date. Unless you want to sleep on the floor for so many days, it is best to get your address to them, so that way it doesn't go to storage and they don't have to pull out of storage. They just deliver your stuff. I think it took a week. I got my stuff Tuesday and they packed it on Thursday, so it was less than a week and they already had dropped my stuff off. So as you can see, that the place has already got stuff set up. So very, very important. Keeps a lot less stress. So what else? Also, one thing I ran into, depending where you're moving, especially if you're on terminal leave, obviously you're still going to be using your doctors and dental and stuff like that. So verify where you're going to be, and if you have to go to TRICARE Prime Remote, for example, you got to switch that stuff or whatever, just make sure you call whoever you're thinking of looking at for your primary care manager, because that stuff is not up to date. So you got to call around and make sure they are where they say they are. And then I called TRICARE, the main website itself, and made sure that they were good to go into the network. So because the last thing you want to do is show up to a doctor and then TRICARE doesn't pay it because they're not in the network. So That's really the biggest piece of advice for that. Oh, also, so make sure admin gives you the paperwork to do your final retirement separation, terminal leave, final move payment, basically, that pays for your food, lodging, your per diem, and all that fun stuff when you're going to your final destination for home of record. Okay, make sure you do that. They're not going to give you DLA, which sucks, but you do get pretty decent chunk of change. And all you need for that is have your admin walk it through you, because there is quite a few different steps that are kind of confusing on the form. But once you get all that done, you sign it, and then you either fill out your bank information, or on the other sheet you say like, hey, use the information you guys already have that is sending my checks to me. You sign those two pieces, and you submit a copy of your orders with it, and you mail that to Millington, and then you'll get a little bit of your money for your gas and your hotels and food and stuff that when you were going to where you got to be. So, and the travel is 350 miles a day, so keep that in mind. Other than that, as far as official talk, that is it for your big 60-day. The other tips I have is just make sure on the VA site, you got your disability claim. When you get to where you're going, make sure you update the address and you get the healthcare going. You sign up for that healthcare thing, right? That way you're already in the system, so you're not waiting around. And also sign up for pre-burial authorization, because that makes it so you submit your DD-214 for that, and it qualifies you to be buried anywhere you want, and they'll cover it. So Arlington, all that stuff like that. So VR&E, that's another thing on VA. So there is a lot of resources on there. So just go ahead and dig through the site, sign up for everything under the sun, because you earned it. You did this, especially if you did 20 years at least, like I did. So that is the biggest pieces of advice I have. Local area, it really depends where you're going to be at. If you even want to associate with veterans, it really depends on how you feel. If you want to go to VFW, cool, right on, go to VFW. If you just want to, do your own thing and all that stuff, then hey, do that too. Whatever you got to do. The other thing too is if you were getting any mental health a year before you got out, there is the in-transition program. They'll call you automatically, okay? There's supposed to be a counselor that they assign to you. I got 2 calls of an automated machine, so I have to call them and figure that out. So, and what that is essentially a life coach or like a mentor system, and they, you get free help and free mental health while you're transitioning. Because trust me, as much as it seems like I have my shit together with all this different planning and all that stuff, that's only because I followed a timeline and I stuck to it and got all that stuff done. And but it is definitely nerve-wracking and scary. And of course, anxiety is already going nuts, so it's very important to be able to get the resources to talk to somebody, especially just because like you're transitioning to the civilian world again, So these the 60 days of terminal leave, it is if you want to jump in and get a job, cool. I wouldn't recommend that. I would definitely have a plan for your finances, what you're going to do until your finances start going around, because there is a stopgap. Okay. So I retire August 31st, which means I'm not going to get a pension paycheck until the end of October 1st. Okay, so that whole month of September, because they only pay you once, they only pay the first. So that whole month of September, no money coming in. So make sure you prepare for that stopgap, so it's not a big a shock. It's really the biggest advice I have. And then just, for me, try to get used to hearing your first name again. I think it's a very difficult part for a lot of veterans. It's just listening to that. You're not, you're not petty officer, you're not chief, you're not sergeant, whatever rank you were. You are who you are now. Mike, Steve, Bill, Janice, whatever your name is. So it's really the biggest thing. Yeah, I'm not saying completely integrate with the civilian world, because I get it. It is very alienating. You don't feel. It's hard to get used to that again. Feeling like just it's, you don't have a superiority complex, but it's really hard to not look down on if people are just looking disheveled or they're fat or whatever, which I know a lot of people in the military now are kind of a little bit chunkers, but for the most part, a lot of us pride ourselves in hitting the gym and staying in shape and stuff like that. So that's really my biggest piece of advice for that. So I will continue doing this. This is just for, like I said, the checkpoints, the year, the 6 months, and your 90 days out, as far as what you need to do. But we'll see how it goes further on, if I decide to have stories or how my transition is going and all that fun stuff. But we will like, comment, subscribe, and we will see what else is going on. If you guys have any ideas, let me know. But that is it.